Remember the pregnant woman who was gunned down at a gas station in King of Prussia. Police say the gunman was the victim's ex-boyfriend. Action News reporter Annie McCormick has this story.
Hey, I dig your hole.
Family and friends planted flowers and plants in an Overbrook park in honor of 31-year-old Tamara Cornelius, whose nickname was Myra.
She was just such a beautiful person. When she came in the room, she just light up the room.
She would help anybody. She loved people. She loved her kids.
The pregnant mother of 3, about to welcome her 4th child, was gunned down at this King of Prussia Exxon on Gulf Road last Friday night.
Charged with gunning down his ex-girlfriend near the King of Prussia Mall, is now also charged with the murder of an unborn child.
Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petrillo has the very latest from Montgomery County.
Authorities released this image Thursday from a security video police say shows 38-year-old Rafiq Thompson holding a gun moments before he fires and kills his pregnant ex-girlfriend. It happened near the King of Prussia Mall on Friday.
In this case, Tamara Cornelius was 14 weeks pregnant. The defendant knew she was pregnant.
Oh, sure. Not to suggest this was a date, right? Valentine's Day dinner. Of course not. Of course not. It's really a very sad story. Very tragic story. The fact that she was pregnant only compounds things. And
they believe he knew that she was pregnant.
That may have been the impetus for his fury and all those calls and all those text messages and the constant legal word harassment that he was bestowing on her.
And this is how it ends up.
On April 11, 2022, the Montgomery Police Department released a statement offering a $5,000 reward for any info leading to the arrest of Rafiq Thompson. Rafiq was wanted for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Tamara Cornelius, at a King of Prussia gas station. Upper Marion Township Police were dispatched to the Exxon station at 113 North Gulf Road for a report of shots fired. They arrived to find Tamara Cornelius lying in the gas station parking lot, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. She was transported to Paoli Hospital, where she was pronounced dead at 11:09 p.m. Rafiq Thompson had been texting Tamara in the weeks before the killing, texting a lot. Rafiq Thompson and Tamara Cornelius had a short, tumultuous relationship around January of 2022. Rafiq was constantly accusing Tamara of cheating on him, and a relationship turned out to be short-lived. As far as the details of the relationship, I'm not really here to speculate on that. Relationships are complicated, and both parties usually view them differently, especially one as toxic as this one seemed to be. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to stick to the facts brought out in the trial. According to court records, detectives examined text messages exchanged between Rafiq and Tamara from January to April of 2022. The messages suggested they were romantically involved in January, but by the end of March, Tamara was attempting to break off the relationship. Also disclosed in the text was that Tamara was pregnant and she named Rafiq as the father of her unborn child. Also included in those texts was arguments they had over the reality that Tamara was moving on from Rafiq and in a new relationship. The fact that Tamara was pregnant with his child and in a new relationship is what appeared to be driving Rafiq crazy. He repeatedly texted Tamara with no response. By one count, he sent her 92 text messages and 21 phone calls that all went without a response. Finally, Rafiq was able to get Tamara to agree to meet with him to maybe figure things out and possibly arrange an amicable situation on how he was going to see his son and move on from Tamara. At least, that's what Rafiq told Tamara to get her to agree to meet him for dinner at the Cheesecake Factory in the King of Prussia Mall. On the fateful night of April 8, 2022, surveillance cameras at the King of Prussia Mall show Rafiq and Tamara meeting in the vestibule area of the Cheesecake Factory around 9:10 p.m. and walking towards the restaurant's entrance. A little more than half an hour later, around 9:45, Rafiq is seen leaving the restaurant and heading toward a parking garage. At 10:15, footage shows Tamara leaving the restaurant and walking toward the same garage. At 10:18, surveillance video shows Tamara's vehicle traveling through the intersection of North Gulf Road and Route 202 North, with Rafiq's vehicle following closely behind with its headlights off. Surveillance cameras at the Exxon station show Tamara arriving at around 10:19 and Rafiq pulling up and stopping directly behind her. As Tamara begins to pump gas, Rafiq gets out of his vehicle. He appears to be saying something to Tamara on camera and then raises his right arm and points a handgun at her and begins shooting. Tamara Cornelius, who is obviously struck, attempts to get away through the parking lot as she stumbles and falls several times. Rafiq Thompson follows directly behind her, continuing to shoot her. She eventually collapses to the ground, and Rafiq stands over her briefly before walking back to his vehicle and fleeing. Philadelphia police located the 2011 white Nissan Maxima registered to Rafiq Muhammad, half a block from his last known address, about an hour after the shooting. Tamara Cornelius was transported to Paoli Hospital with multiple gunshot wounds. She was pronounced dead at 11:09 p.m.
New charges are now announced against a man accused of killing his pregnant ex-girlfriend while she was pumping gasoline in King of Prussia.
And court documents show that he has a history of domestic abuse and is on parole. So I want to bring in attorney Shaka Johnson joining us now. I mean, this is a horrible story that sounds like it could have been prevented.
It could have been, I suppose, but I mean, domestic violence scenarios, Alex, are always the most tedious kind. They're volatile, they're unpredictable. As I understand the story, these two started off, at least the evening, at dinner, and that, erupted into this.
Well, he also had called her 93 times and texted her like hundreds of times.
Sure.
So she kind of capitulated, said, all right,
Yeah,
I
she wasn't
understand.
answering at first.
Let's go meet at Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, sure, not to suggest this was a
date, right?
Valentine's Day dinner. Of course not. Of course not. It's really a very sad story, very tragic story. The fact that she was pregnant only compounds things.
I know.
And they believe he knew that she was pregnant.
That may have been the impetus for his fury and all those calls and all those text messages and the constant legal word harassment that he was bestowing on her.
And this is how it ends up. So they leave Cheesecake Factory, and it seemed like maybe she thought it was resolved. And she goes to pump gasoline. He followed her there and shot her.
I got a different read on it, Mike.
Okay.
I got a different read. My read was she left him at Cheesecake. Like, this conversation is over. And then he follows her. And for first-degree murder, right, for the charge of first-degree murder, the operative word is premeditation. So to the extent that he was riding around with the gun in the car so that he could leave Cheesecake, immediately follow her to a gas station, and then shoot her, suggests, or at least could suggest, and I'm sure District Attorney Kevin Steele will say this, suggests that he planned on killing her that evening if things did not go his way.
Because because he waited and then followed her and he had it right there.
And it was ready. It was there. I don't think he went and got it. I think the evidence will suggest, Kevin Steele will say, that he had it with him, and if things did not go as planned, he was going to kill her, and that's what he did.
I can just say, I understand what she was probably thinking after 93 phone calls, whatever, in that day.
Sure.
I'll go there. Maybe we can talk it out. But I don't know.
Or maybe talk him down, because obviously I think 93 phone calls and text messages suggest that he's being agitated, his activities are escalating, so she probably thought she could talk him down off that proverbial ledge.
What's interesting is he had a prior charge for doing something similar. It involved an ex-girlfriend, and there was an stay-away order, and he violated it. Didn't he have to do anger management, and he completed that?
He did, but clearly this, whatever that gentleman has going on inside of him extends past what a little certification and anger management can do for him.
Obviously, we all wish she never had gone to meet him.
And then it makes you think, well, if she hadn't gone with those 93 calls and texts, would this have just happened another kind of way?
At her house. I don't know. What can women do? I mean, you get a restraining order.
I mean,
well, sometimes that doesn't work.
You can get a restraining order, that helps. But obviously, I think sometimes people are too afraid to get the system involved to give them the assistance that is available to them. I don't know what this particular victim had done previously. I know, Alex, we just talked about a previous girlfriend, but I don't know what she done. The system has lots of tools at, women and men, let me be clear, at people's disposal that they can use.
And I think she had other children.
Of course, yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. So those children are now, motherless. Correct.
Oh, my God. All right, Shaka, try to have a good weekend.
This was a pretty open and shut case for District Attorney Michael Steele. Quote, if he couldn't control her and have her, nobody else would. He emphasized a deliberate and willful and premeditated act with a conscious intent to kill. He asserted in his opening statement to a jury of 8 women and 4 men as a capital murder trial for Rafiq Thompson commenced on September 11th, 2023. Steele and co-prosecutor Samantha Arena were seeking a conviction of first-degree murder, which is an intentional killing and punishable by either the death penalty or life imprisonment. Prosecutors plan to argue for the death penalty if the jury convicted Thompson of the first-degree murder charge. Francis Genovese argued prosecutors can't prove Thompson had the specific intent to kill and suggested a conviction of the lesser charge of third-degree murder would be the appropriate verdict. Third-degree murder is a killing committed with malice or a wickedness of disposition, cruelty, hardness of heart, or a disregard of the consequences of one's conduct and is punishable by a possible maximum sentence of 20 to 40 years. Not every killing is a murder, and not every murder is a murder of first degree, Genovese argued during his opening statement to the jury, claiming the couple's relationship was, quote, tumultuous and that Thompson was, quote, upset to learn that Cornelius planned to keep his child from him and allow the child to be raised by another man with whom she was involved. He acted without considering the consequences of his actions when he fired those shots, Genovese argued. Rafiq Thompson testified at trial. During his testimony, Thompson claimed he was upset to learn that Tamara planned to keep his child from him and allow his child to be raised by another man. Thompson testified the shooting occurred shortly after he and Tamara had a heated discussion at the nearby Cheesecake Factory restaurant about their relationship and that Tamara had told him earlier, "You're lucky if you ever see the baby." Thompson claimed that several months earlier, Tamara had lied to him that she had lost the baby. He also testified that on April 8th, he indeed did text her to invite her to dinner. The waiter who served the pair testified that the two appeared to be having a contentious conversation, a back-and-forth argument, and that when he returned with the food order, the woman was alone and Rafiq had left the restaurant without Tamara. Tamara asked the waiter to box the food for takeout and paid the bill and left the restaurant at 10:15 p.m. and then drove to the Exxon station on North Gulf Road, detectives said. One witness testified that Tamara, while lying on the ground, said, I'm sorry. Another witness said Thompson, after firing multiple shots, shouted something to the effect of, I don't care if I go to jail. 2 days later, during closing statements, Montgomery County District Attorney Kevin Steele once again walked the jury through the timeline of events that led to Thompson killing Cornelius at the gas station. Steele showed the jury the many texts and calls throughout the day before the two met at the Cheesecake Factory and showed the jury surveillance footage of the shooting. The footage, Steele said, shows Thompson yelling at Cornelius while hiding a stolen Glock 19 handgun in his right hand before raising the gun and shooting her. What you did to this defenseless woman and unborn child was cowardly, a despicable act of violence, Montgomery County Judge William R. Carpenter addressed convicted killer Rafiq Thompson at the conclusion of trial. Carpenter recalled that Rafiq's defense lawyer claimed that Rafiq was not, quote, the worst of the worst, and they argued that he should not be sentenced to death for his crimes. But Judge Carpenter said while that may be true on a national level, Rafiq was among the worst of the worst he's seen in a Montgomery County courtroom during his decades on the bench. Judge Carpenter added that he is among the lowest of the low, and he is a dangerous person, a danger to the community. He does not follow the rules. The judge ended up sentencing Rafiq Thompson to 2 consecutive life prison terms on the charges of first-degree murder and the murder of an unborn child. In addition to the life sentences, the judge added 18.5 to 37 years in prison for the additional gun charges. Such consecutive sentences will make it more difficult for any future governor to ever commute Rafiq Thompson's life sentence. Rafiq Thompson, 40, of the 800 block of North 47th Street, did not react to the consecutive sentences and said nothing in court before learning his fate. He declined to comment to a reporter as sheriff deputies escorted him from the courtroom to begin spending the remainder of his life behind bars. According to court documents, Rafiq Thompson pleaded guilty to aggravated assault in which he hit his former girlfriend with his van and threatened her with a knife after their relationship ended. The victim alleged that Thompson had also set a mattress on fire in her backyard. He was sentenced on June 25, 2018 to 3 to 6 years in prison and 11 years probation and was ordered to complete anger management counseling. Thompson was made eligible for parole upon completing a Batters Group program and was released on June 30th, 2019, and he was on state parole at the time of the April 8th fatal shooting of Tamara Cornelius. The Institute on Domestic Violence in the African American Community and Minnesota University published a 36-page report on the effect of domestic violence and physical abuse on Black women in the United States. The United States continues to grapple with a distressing level of Black homicides. Black femicide, referring to the homicide of Black women, stands out as the primary cause of death among young Black women aged 15 to 34 and ranks among the leading contributors to premature death for Black women overall. Both government reports and scholarly research confirm that African Americans face a disproportionate risk of homicide victimization. In comparison to their white counterparts, Black women are 3 times more likely to fall victim to murder. Additionally, Black women face a 3-fold higher likelihood of dying at the hands of a partner or ex-partner than individuals from other racial groups. While estimates vary, existing literature on the prevalence of intimate partner violence during pregnancy indicates that approximately 3% to 19% of pregnant women experience violence from their partner. In essence, research indicates that Black women encounter notably high rates and various forms of trauma, leading to substantial mental, physical, social, and economic consequences. The structural obstacles they face sometimes impede efforts to seek help, prompting many to turn to informal resources for support. The complex and troubling nature of trauma experienced by Black women needs more attention from the public health community. I provided some resources in the description. Sometimes getting law enforcement involved isn't enough. Extra resources can help in the meantime. Thanks for watching. This has been American Confidential, and until next time, be safe.